Ladies and gentlemen, good evening everyone, and first we would like to say sorry about the delay. There was a kind of a security reason, and then GPS reason, and then technical reasons for being late half an hour than we planned. But I promise that we will try to compensate this half an hour and finish on time. Good evening again, and welcome to today dialogue platform session. Thank you for joining us for this important conversation titled, Where is Sudan Heading? Sudan at a Crossroads, War, Regional Power Politics, and Civilian Path to Peace. And I think most of you who came here interested in peace. My name is Eman Hassan Mahmoud. I am a member of the Dialogue Forum. I am a PhD candidate in communication and leadership, and I'm interested also in what's going on in my country. I have the privilege for facilitating today's dialogue. Sudan stands at a very profoundly critical moment. The ongoing conflict has reshaped political, social, humanitarian realities across the country. And at the same time, there is regional dynamics and shifting geopolitical interests continue to influence the development on the ground. With this complexity, Sudanese civilians, both inside and outside the country, are demonstrating remarkable resilience, insisting on a future rooted in dignity, justice, and peace. And I still repeat, I believe that most of us who came here are interested in that. Today's session of meeting, it aims to unpack these dynamics, the drives and implication of the current war, the regional power politics shaping the conflict, and the pathway of the Sudanese civilians and the civil society actors and political stakeholders who came today are working to create for a peaceful and democratic future. The plan of today's session, I will introduce my colleague Mohammed Haggar, who then will introduce our honored guest Khalid Omar, and he will give a brief also on the platform on the dialogue. Mohammed Haggar, my colleague and the facilitator also for today's session, is a trained social worker educated at the Norwegian University of Social Technology, NTNU in Trondheim. He is currently working in NAF at Lillestrom municipality, where he contributes to social welfare and community support. Mohammed Haggar has been active in the diaspora and the community engagement. He served as many years as the chairman of the Darfurian Association in North Norway, where he played central role in strengthening community organization, cultural visibility, and advocacy. He is now also, same like me, a member of Dialogue Platform. I would also like to add that Mohammed Haggar in 2023, after the war, he organized a very huge fundraising efforts and personally traveled to Chad to support the Sudanese refugee in camps following the association of the conflict. His humanitarian engagement reflects his deep dedication to solidarity, social justice, and practical support for displaced community. I will leave the floor for him now to do the second job.
Before I introduce our guest today, so I just want to say a few words about the Dialogue Platform. It's an organization which is established this year, the beginning of this year, here in Lillestrom, with people from, majority of them, members is from Sudan, but we have also members from other countries here. The main focus of this organization is that we are working for a dialogue, peace and trust building. Because majority of us, we are people who born and being raised up conflicts, war, and being refugees for many years. And the majority of us also been here in Norway for a while, and the cause of this, for being here in Norway because of this war that we left all the time. So that's why in some periods from some of our colleagues, we have been in dialogue with the Lillestrom municipality and other charity organizations that they talk to us, we talk to them together. We found out that especially we who is coming from Sudan, living here in Norway, living in very difficult situations, especially now after the war of April 23. Many of us has family members that been missed, suffered, and many of them being displaced. So because of all these causes, we thought that this war affected us emotionally, economically, and mentally, and everywhere. We thought, and we sat down and we talked to each other, especially these groups who established this platform, and we say that we are not able to continue. Even being here in Norway, a country that provides us everything we needed, we're still not happy because of what's going on in Sudan. So we started our journey, we are working, and today we are organizing something more special. We are working not only about the political issues, we are even working about many social issues here, even in Norway, among the minorities, especially between Sudanese people. Issues regarding integration issues and other issues, which is very important. So we are coming back to this later if we get some questions. Now I'm going to introduce our guest. We are honored to welcome our guest speaker, a former Sudanese Minister of Cabinet Affairs and a Vice President of Sudanese Congress Party and member of Sumud Alliance, Khalid Omar Yousif, who played a key role during the post-Bashir transitional period and remains a prominent civilian voice in debates about Sudan's political future. The purpose of this seminar is not only to understand how Sudan reached this point, but also to explore wider civilian agency inside Sudan and across the region, and can still shape a path toward peace amid war and regional power competitions. Before we begin, I would like to remind everyone our goal today is to foster respectful exchange, deepen understanding, and create space for multiple perspectives. I encourage you to engage actively, ask questions, and reflect with us.
Thank you. I have practical information. I think by now you know where the toilet is. There will be, after 1 hour from now, there will be a break. And for those who smoker, there is a shortcut so that you can go by this side and you find the door instead of going to the main road. And the session will be divided into 5 themes. After each theme, the floor is open for you for any questions, and then we move to the second theme. Our together plan is to start the first 2 themes and then the break, and after the break we come back and finish the remaining 3 themes. Haggar, now we wanted to introduce the Sudan war before we give the floor to the guest Khalid Omar. So now it's introduction about Sudan war, the conflict and current realities.
Since April 2023, Sudan has been overwhelmed in a devastating war between competing military forces. What began as a power struggle at the center of the state has evolved into one of the most severe humanitarian and political crises in the world. The conflict has now entering its 3rd year. resulting in the collapse of the state institutions, widespread violence against civilians, and massive displacement. According to the United Nations, more than 14 million people have been forcibly displaced by the war, including over 19 million displaced persons and more than 4 million refugees who have fled into neighboring countries. The largest numbers of Sudanese refugees are currently hosted by Egypt, Chad, and South Sudan. Host communities in these countries are under immense strain, adding a regional dimension to Sudan's crisis. Inside Sudan, essential services have largely collapsed. Health facilities have been destroyed or shut down. Food insecurity has reached catastrophic levels in several regions, and estimated 14 million children are out of school, of totally approximately 19 million children in Sudan. Sudan is now facing one of the largest education emergencies in the world, with long-term consequences of social cohesion, recovery, and peace. This war did not emerge suddenly. It's a result of decades of authoritarian rule, the deep militarization of the state, the failure to dismantle deep-rooted power structures after 2019 revolution, and the collapse of the civilian-led transition following. The October 21 military coup and the absence of accountability for the past atrocities, particularly in Darfur and other areas, has embedded a culture of impunity that continues to fuel violence today.
I think by now most of the audience, they want to hear Mr. Khalid Omar. And I want to start with initial reflection just for 10 minutes regarding what Haggar thankfully introduced insightful information about the initial reflection about the war in Sudan. But we need, as an audience here, we need to know from you the problem of Sudan and how we came at this point. We want your brief about this up to when Bashir fall down, not after that. This will be covered by other team. Thank you. It's you.
Thank you very much for having me here and for inviting me to the very, very cold Oslo. And thank you for everybody here to come for this session. As Mohammed said, this war in Sudan is the biggest humanitarian crisis on the earth. The numbers are telling a big part of the truth. But when you say 14 million refugees, just compare this to any crisis in the world, and you can measure the extent of the suffering of the Sudanese people. There is another number, which is the amount of people that have died because of this war. Do you know how much? Nobody knows. In Sudan, now the soul of the people is very cheap, to an extent that even there is no statistics for the number of those has been died because of this war. More than 25 million Sudanese are in need for immediate assistance, even for the basic needs of the human being. And because of that, without going into endless political discussion, the demand of all, whether they are international or local, should be for this war to stop now without conditions. And I think this should be above anything else. But also, in addition to that, this war witnessed atrocities by the two fighting sides, it's also targeting the civilian. The RSF committed horrible atrocities recently in Al-Fashir, in Al-Junaina before, in different areas in Sudan, killing, looting, targeting the civilian, sexual attacks. And the other side, SAF, is killing the people through aerial bombardment, through use of chemical weapons against the civilians, and also the Islamist element within SAF is killing the people in a way, in a terrorist way, like the ISIS is doing in many places in Sudan. So this is not a war between good and evil. This is a war between two fighting sides who are targeting the civilians of Sudan. And to understand this war, unfortunately, the media of the day is not telling anything. The breaking news of the day is not telling anything. There is a very journalistic coverage for what's happening in Sudan without deeper analysis and understanding for what's happening, because this crisis cannot end and we go for a sustainable peace by just have a coat of paint over the problem. You have to address the root causes of this problem to achieve a sustainable peace. And the major root causes of the instability in Sudan is the long decades of authoritarian regime, of military rule. In this year, we mark 70 years of since the independence of Sudan. Out of this 70 years, Sudan has been ruled by the military for 55 years. 55 years of military rule. And because there are some people now keep saying that SAF is representing the state and they should run the country after the war. Because of the same SAF and their rule for 55 years, now we are into this mess. Sudan today is not Norway. Sudan today is not Singapore. Sudan today is witnessing the worst humanitarian catastrophe in the world because of very long decades of authoritarian regime. And in a very diverse country like Sudan. Without an inclusive framework of governance, nothing is going to happen but instability. Because in a country when at the time of the independence of Sudan, there were more than 500 tribes within this country, more than 120 languages within this country, different ethnic groups. And the authoritarian regimes of Sudan insisted to impose a unilateral vision over the whole Sudanese, which led to continuous civil wars. So the first civil war of Sudan didn't start in 2023. The first civil war in Sudan started in 1955. And it took 18 years till the peace agreement of 1972 in Addis Ababa, and then the war erupted again in South Sudan in 1983, and it took 22 years till the CPA, which led after that to the secession of South Sudan. And in Darfur, the war started in 2003, and also it took 17 years till the Juba Peace Agreement in 2020. So we had a very long history of civil wars. All these civil wars, root causes is the denial of the diversity of this country. But also, the problem became more severe, starting from 1989. You know, now you see there are many places in the world speaking about the Muslim Brotherhood and they are terrorists, and nobody on the earth know what does it mean to live under the rule of the Islamists more than the Sudanese, because we lived under the rule of this fascist group for 30 years. For 30 years. When those guys came to the power at 1989, at that time I was 10 years old. When the Bashir regime fell, I was an old man with a gray hair. So I lived this experience personally for 30 years. I didn't leave Sudan for the for all this time. I was living in Sudan. So we as Sudanese knew very much what does it mean when such a group ruled the country. This kind of group, they want to decide to you what clothes that you wear,
what kind of drink that you drink, what kind of food that you eat, what to know and what to be ignorant about. And they try to shape, actually, they had a project calling Reshaping the Sudanese People. This is not the name that we gave it to the project. This is the name that they said it, that they came to power to reshape the Sudanese character. And they imposed this by force. They imposed this by torture, they imposed this by waging war in South Sudan, by waging war in Darfur. And because of that, the biggest crimes in the history of Sudan happened during the time of the rule of the Islamists in Sudan. The division of the country and the genocide in Darfur. Even all those who are shocked now by the crimes of the RSF is just one product of the Bashir regime, because the RSF didn't fall from the sky. The RSF has been created by the Bashir regime to protect the Bashir regime, and at that time they were embracing the brutality of the RSF, and they are using this brutality against many people all around Sudan, and at that time they were the defender of the RSF. Now, those who are trying to pretend that they are victims, they are not victims, they are criminals, and they should not be rewarded for their crimes. And in 2019, a glorious revolution. Millions of Sudanese people went to the street to demand their freedom. The slogan of that revolution was freedom, peace, and justice for all Sudanese. So, in one sentence, if someone to define this war, this is a war against the revolution of 2019. This is a war against the democratic transition that started in 2019. Because the two fighting sides did the coup in 2021, took the country for the war in 2023, and now when it comes to the main target of the warring party is the pro-peace, pro-democracy movement. Now in Sudan, they try to portray that everyone who called for peace, everyone who called for a peaceful resolution for this problem, because there is no military solution for this fight. We have the experience in Sudan for fighting for a long time. As I said, the first war took 17 years, the second war 18 years, the second war took 22 years, and all the civil wars in Sudan ended through peaceful resolution. So there is no mean to try to reinvent the wheel. The shortest way to end this catastrophe is to go to negotiation table and to end this fighting peacefully. Every day that this war continue, the people of Sudan are paying a very high cost. They are suffering a lot, and because of that, our call is no to war. Our score is yes to peace. The war must stop right now. Those who are committing crimes against Sudanese people, they should be held accountable. The two fighting parties, they should not be legitimized. The future of Sudan should not be for another years of military rule. The only way to achieve a stable Sudan is through peaceful, civilian, democratic transition. This is the way to end all the wars in Sudan, not to repeat the same mistakes of the history of Sudan.
Yeah, thank you, Khalid, if I may take this. Thank you, Mr. Khalid, and I think you raised a very important issue regarding why we reached this point in the war. You mentioned that there was long time military ruling in Sudan. There was also a reason for a civil wars, and the Muslim Brotherhood and what they did to reshape the Sudanese community. And most of us also agree that whatever that we want to do, we have to sit down and end this war as soon, better than later. With that said, I will leave the floor to my colleague Mohammed Haggar, together with Khalid, to navigate us through today's dialogue. We look forward for a thoughtful, open, and constructive dialogue. Thank you again, Khalid, for having us here together with you.
Thank you, Eman and Mr. Khalid. And thank you for this brief reflection and statement about Sudan as a country, the history, and how we came at this point. Now, Mr. Khalid, from revolution to war again, the post-Bashir transition, and the October 21 coup. How should the period following the fall of Bashir regime in 2019 be assessed in terms of achievements and failures?
Well, thank you, Brother Mohammed, for this question. And you know, after 2019, after the fall of Bashir, the mission that we're facing, the civilian, it was a mission impossible. To facilitate a peaceful transition from dictatorship to democracy, from the rule of the extremist to a modern Sudan that embrace the diversity, from the corruption that was major sign of the time of Bashir to transparency and economic transformation, from wars, civil wars that were in Nuba Mountain and Blue Nile and in Darfur to peace. That was not an easy, they were not an easy missions. But also to face a brutal regime that captured the state for 30 years. You know, when it comes to the military institution, the Islamists, when they did the coup through military officers who were loyal to the Islamic movement. But starting from 1989, if you are not a member in the Islamic movement, you can't enter for the to be part of the army or the security. So for 30 years, they were controlling the security sector, injecting their cadres there, and capturing the whole state, the civilian and the military institutions. Also through looting of Sudan resources. You can imagine in the years of the Inqadh regime, at the time, Sudan was producing more than 500,000 barrels of oil a day. And if any one of you visited Sudan or saw photos, you can't see the impact of this wealth on the Sudanese people. The education collapsed, the health system collapsed, the infrastructure was in a very bad shape. But you can see this amount of money in the bank accounts of the Islamists in Sudan, whether inside or outside Sudan. And they were using this money to finance their terrorist acts inside and outside Sudan. Sudan, at the time of the Islamists, were the host for most of the terrorist group all around the world. They couldn't find a better place to work from better than Sudan. So I mean, in 2019, it was a very difficult mission to lead Sudan through a transition that can be negotiated with the military institution, because at 2019 there is a constitutional document that has been signed between the civilians and the military to open the road for years of transition that ended by election and full transition for civilian rule. And the civilian government faced that the deep state that controlled by the Islamists, it was working against this transition. The two military sides were working against this transition. But regardless of all of that, and also to be very frank, and to be very, very frank, you know, in 2019 when the revolution happened, many of the people all around the world and the Western governments celebrated this by statements and posting nice photos about the revolution in Sudan. But the amount of assistance that has been provided to transition was minimal. It was really minimal. So we were leading a transition without resources, without too many friends who are willing to support you all the way, and with an arena that's full of enemies that want to kill this transition. But in 2 years of transition, there are many achievements happen. Number one, the transitional government succeed to silence the guns all over Sudan. When the revolution happened, at that time there was a civil war in Nuba Mountain, in Blue Nile, in Darfur. So during the transition, the transitional government managed to silence the guns. And whether through Juba Peace Agreement, which has been signed with some of the armed movements, but also those who didn't sign a peace agreement like SPLM North Abdelaziz, they stopped the fighting and the ceasefire at that time. And there are many who remember when Dr. Abdullah Hamdok, the Prime Minister of the transition, went to Kauda, the headquarters of Abdelaziz, and how he has been received there by people who were suffering under war for decades. They saw at that time this transition as an opportunity to end the suffering of them. Number two of the achievement is the freedoms that has been all around the country. The freedom of speech, the freedom of expression, the freedom of organization, the legal reforms that has been implemented during the transition in a very limited time. Sudan has ended years of authoritarian and went through very fast steps for reform that opened the space for all Sudanese. Also the economy, which was one of the real challenging fronts. When the transitional government came, the government of Sudan, of Bashir at that time, were corrupt and were bankrupt actually at that time. And again, without assistance from abroad, and or to be fair, with a minimal assistance from abroad, the transitional government managed to implement a very ambitious program of reform that start to merit during the transition itself. And I think if you want to assess whether the transitional government were doing good or not, you can ask just the Sudanese people, and the Sudanese people said what they thought on the eve of the coup. On the eve of the coup, millions of the Sudanese went to the street without anyone asking them at that time to went to the street to oppose the coup and to demand the transition to continue. And the two fighting sides, how did they treat the protester there? They killed them without mercy. So those who are trying now to differentiate between SAF and RSF, they should ask themselves, if SAF really is the guardian of a state, if the guardian of a state killing the peaceful protester because they demand their freedom, is this kind of guardian that we want for our country? I think that was clear. But also that time, it didn't went without, of course, shortcomings. There are many things that could be done better than that. Actually, we were the first who tried to assess that the transitional period fairly. In FFC, the Freedom and FFC, the alliance that led the revolution and the transition, we had a workshop after the coup, and we issued a book of 600 pages that assessing and providing a constructive criticism for what didn't went well during the transition and how it can be done better. And this is actually the essence of democracy. Democracy is the best way to correct things peacefully and to give all the people the opportunity to have their take and their opinion, because this is the best way to go forward.
Sorry for interrupting you, and thank you for your reflections and answer about these questions. But 2 years after the revolution, in the transition period, again there was a military coup. Why did the October 20 coup take place, and whose interest did it serve?
Some try to say that the coup happened because the transition failed. Actually, it is the opposite. If the civilian transitional government failed, the military will be very happy and will let it just fail. But because the transitional government succeed, they choose to end this transition, because they don't, at that time they didn't want to see election in Sudan. And it was very clear at that time, if the election happened at that time, the pro-democracy, pro-civilian future forces in Sudan will win without any serious contestation from anyone. But they didn't want it to see this through the public mandate of the Sudanese. So the coup happened by SAF, RSF, and the Islamists. Both of them came together against and around one goal: not to allow election to take place in Sudan, because if the election happened at that time, they will be defeated. The pro-revolution, pro-peace, pro-democracy forces will win, and this is the main reason of the coup.
But then this coup led to the collapse of the civilian-led transition. So how did the collapse of the civilian-led transition contribute to outbreak of the current war?
We didn't collapse, we are here. That's exactly what they wanted. They wanted to kill the civilian movement, and I'm telling you, they failed. Till now, they are not they are not able to kill the civilian movement. And look, the Sudanese people are very brave people. When they went to the street in 2021 against the coup, the millions of people who went to the street, they know that they are sacrificing their life. They did. They went to the street and they refused the coup. This war aim is to kill the aspiration of the Sudanese people in a civilian democratic future. They want to put it this way. Either we kill you or we rule you. But we keep saying to them, you can kill us, but you cannot dictate our future, because we are not going to go back to the era of authoritarian in any cost. Sudan deserves better than the past, and we believe the future will be better than the past. But when you are, the authoritarian regime and the Islamists, they are like a cancer. It is a cancer in the body of Sudan. The treatment of the body from the cancer is not an easy thing. And I believe this war is the last conspiracy of these groups to rule Sudan. The war will end, the peace will come to Sudan. Sudan will have a better future than that. But I think after all what they did, the crime that they did during the 30 years of their rule, the crime of the coup, the crime that they are doing in this war, the Sudanese people will again decide their destiny, decide their future, choose what is better for them, and refuse anything that to be imposed over them.
Yeah, as we see that, and as Mr. Khalid mentioned right now, this war is, as we understand and we are experiencing until now, from the beginning of the war. So this is a war against the civilian. And we, who is living here in Norway and everywhere in the world, we watched and we hear and we are following that the atrocities which is committed in Khartoum started there, and then everywhere in Sudan, El Geneina, Al Jazeera, Al Fashir, and everywhere. So what does the humanitarian situation in Sudan look like today in terms of displacement, food insecurity, insecurity, and access to health services?
As we presented at the beginning, it is the worst humanitarian catastrophe in the world. The UN said that, many humanitarian agencies said that. But again, because of that, the humanitarian access should not be an option. It is an obligation. And the food and the medicine and the service and the assistance should be reached to all Sudanese people all over Sudan and the Sudanese people in the refugee camps without any kind of obstacles. And because of that, we keep calling for unconditional humanitarian truce all over Sudan. And to be very frank, the most promising initiative now to achieve this is the Quad initiative. They put on the table a proposal for the humanitarian truce. The RSF said that they are accepting the humanitarian truce. SAF is reluctant to come to the table. So pressures on the fighting sides to accept the truce and to implement this truce should be coordinated between all international and Sudanese. And because of that, there are, many opportunities came before to stop the fighting and to deliver the assistance to the Sudanese people, but it has been missed time after time after time after time. And one of the things also that should be, there should be clarity about it. For example, now SAF refused to come to last year to the Geneva talks on the humanitarian issues, because they said that we are not going to come to the table as SAF. You have to recognize us as government firstly, and then we will come as the government of Sudan. They are not the government of Sudan. They are not the government of Sudan. They are a partner in a coup that produced illegitimate authority. And the international community should not be blackmailed by this, because there are some who are keep saying that, okay, because SAF saying they are not going to come to the table unless we legitimize them, let us legitimize them. I believe this will lead just to the opposite. Because, and the very clear example on that, actually, there are only two agreements that has been signed between the two fighting parties since the start of the war. The Jeddah agreement and the Manama agreement. Both agreement has been signed as SAF and RSF. They signed as SAF and RSF. The moment that some international started to legitimize SAF as government, they stopped coming to the negotiation. Do you know what? Do you know why? Because you gave them exactly what they want. They want to be the ruler of the country. And if someone called Burhan the president, why he is going to go for the negotiation again, to negotiate about what? About the life of the Sudanese people? He doesn't care about the Sudanese people. He doesn't care. So the most effective way to bring the fighting parties to the table is not by playing nice with them. They don't respond to niceties. They respond only to pressures. They respond only to strong positions. They don't respond to nice words, and they don't care about the life of the Sudanese people.
We are still in the humanitarian crisis inside Sudan, and as we know that when atrocities, crimes being committed in Sudan, some specific groups paying a higher price. So my question is, why has Sudan's humanitarian, what specific protection risks are women and children facing in displacement and conflict settings?
Yes, women and children are facing the most burden of this humanitarian catastrophe in Sudan. They have been the target of systematic abuses during all this war, and that's why special measures to protect the women and children should be imposed and should be part of parcel of any plan for humanitarian assistance or any plan for a humanitarian ceasefire. Without special measures that to protect the women and to protect the children, this catastrophe will continue.
Yeah, and the statistics, as we mentioned in the beginning, concerning children, refugees, displacement is really very high. Why has Sudan's humanitarian catastrophe not translated into sustained international political action?
Also, let me be very frank here, and let us start by us, the Sudanese. Okay, I think the Sudanese, even the Sudanese civilians, they be part of the responsibility. And let me start here from Norway. The Sudanese here in Norway, and you know, the Sudanese are divided everywhere now in the world. You will sit with someone who will say 1, 2, 3. You will sit with another one coming to say another thing, and these differences will only prolong the war and prolong the suffering of the Sudanese people. We should not agree about anything. We can agree on the minimum. We can agree in 3 words: stop the war, and that's it. And then anyone can express his or her own opinion. But sometimes when I saw some of the calls of the Sudanese, it is confusing for us, the Sudanese, let alone the internationals, because you can't understand clearly what is the ask and the demand here. I think the ask should be the basic. The war must stop. And this should happen now without delay. And the starting point here is the 2 fighting parties. There should be pressures on the 2 fighting parties to stop this war. But also, when it comes to the international side, the world now is divided around Sudan. There are many regional international powers who have different interests, and so saying different things about Sudan. And this is not only limited to the region. I'm telling you, this is also here in the West, and not only within the governments, but I'm telling you also, it is even within the media and within the NGOs. You know, when you look for example, when you look for the covering of part of the Western media for what's happening in Sudan, it is really heartbreaking because these stories that dominating the media here, it is not about the suffering of the Sudanese people. It's about some political calculations here in the West, not even in Sudan. And those who are paying the price of that is the Sudanese people. So I think we need to go back to the basics. We need to go back to the drawing board. Let us start from what really should unify us, is to stop the killing in Sudan. The main responsibility of stopping the killing in Sudan is on the 2 fighting sides. Because also there are some who keep saying that, no, this is because of the regional backer. Actually, this is giving a blank check for those killers who are killing the Sudanese people, they should bear the responsibility at the first place. Before you're speaking about anyone else, you have to speak about those who are killing the people really inside Sudan, which SAF and RSF. The responsibility, it is on them, firstly. And then, of course, there should be a strong position from all the international. Now there is a Security Council resolution on Darfur in Sudan of armed embargo. We keep calling to extend this armed embargo to cover all over Sudan, But unfortunately, and this is part of the flood of the international system now. 2 days back, I was watching a Security Council session on Sudan. And there was a very good report by the ICC on the atrocities that has been committed by the RSF in Darfur, and their determination that to hold the RSF accountable for that, which is excellent. Some guy is sitting in the Security Council representing Sudan. Okay, actually he's representing SAF, not Sudan. And he keeps saying that we support the ICC. The ICC should hold the RSF accountable. And this guy is the same guy who is representing an authority that providing protection for Al-Bashir and Ahmed Harun, who are indicted by the ICC. So the international system give the criminals seat on the table to speak selectively about some crimes while they are killing the Sudanese people and they are providing protection for criminals. And this is the story of Sudan now, and this is the story of the international system now. And that's why there is a need for principled position on what's happening in Sudan. These atrocities should be covered, whether it came from SAF or RSF. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. A crime is a crime. Some is trying to say that no. Let us. But the RSF is committing more crimes than SAF, and this is a very funny logic. Imagine that I kill 10 people and you kill one person, and then they took us to the court, and then the judge say that, okay, this guy committed more crimes than this guy, so the guy who committed more crimes go to the prison, and the guy who committed less crimes should be rewarded for that he's committing less crime. This is a very insane logic. The criminal is a criminal, whether he or she killed 1 person or 10 person or 100 person is a criminal. And that's why we keep supporting the work of the fact-finding mission, the independent fact-finding mission. The independent fact-finding mission is doing an amazing job in Sudan. They are producing reports that's very well written and well documented, and naming the crimes as it is. What SAF did to the Sudanese people, what the RSF did to the Sudanese people, and what is being recommended to end these atrocities. And I think one of the starting points to address these atrocities is to implement the recommendation of the fact-finding mission. They had a very good report on Sudan. They have a very good recommendation on Sudan, and the implementation of this recommendation without any kind of selectivity is very important for the future of justice and fairness in Sudan.
Sorry for interrupting you, and thank you very much for these comments. But Mr. Khalid, as you mentioned, and we will be back again to the international political humanitarian action. But we saw and we are seeing many civil society organizations among the Sudanese society. And we have even a live example of the voice of Tongole, Gada, who is sitting here in front of us. She's working directly with children in Sudan, in Nuba Mountain especially. And we have many other civil society organizations. I can mention even the emergency response rooms who have been nominated for Nobel Prize here in Norway, and they finally achieved the Rafto Prize in Bergen, and even some representatives have been here in Norway. What are the emergency response rooms, and how did they emerge under conditions of war and state collapse?
The emergency response room did a tremendous job in Sudan, and by providing the humanitarian assistance for the people in need in a very difficult circumstances in Sudan. Actually, to try to be a civilian who provide aid for people in Sudan amid this war is a crime by the two fighting sides, and it's a sacrifice to be done. And unfortunately now, at the beginning of the war, because at that time the RSF were controlling too much areas of Sudan, there are many brave people who stayed inside the RSF controlled area, and they provided the aid for the people in need. Many of them now in prisons, and they are giving them a new charge called collaborator, and some of them are facing death sentence. They are facing death sentence. And you know what? You are not going to find their news in New York Times or in the media mainstream. There are many of them now in prison, and there is death sentence on them. No news about them. No news on the news. No condemnation for one Western government. No condemnation for any of the human rights organization. Complicity and silence. Because of political agenda. Because of political agenda. And I think we are here to break this silence. All those who are facing these atrocities should be exposed, and those who are doing this to Sudanese people should be accountable.
Thank you very much. We are taking one more term very fast, and then I will give mic to Eman, who can manage the questions, and then we can take the break and finish with our first session, and then we will start again after the break. Mr. Khalid, when it comes to justice, accountability, and impunity, specifically the International Criminal Court and transitional justice, what was the transitional government's position regarding cooperation with the International Criminal Court for those who are committed crimes in Sudan? And they even there's a list of people who are committed crimes in Sudan.
The transitional government signed an agreement of cooperation with the ICC. The ICC had the access to Sudan for the first time during the time of the transitional government, and when the transitional government facilitated all the needs of the ICC to resume their work. And it was very clear. The reason at that time we were, and we said that publicly, that was not a secret, Bashir and Ahmed Haroun and others should be taken to the ICC. The military were opposing that at that time, and there was a struggle and conflict between the civilians and the military around the fate of these criminals. And now, after the war, it is very clear they are living under the protection of the same people who opposed the work of the ICC in Sudan. But during the transition, the cooperation agreement has been signed, the ICC itself recognized the steps that has been taken during the transition, but all this has been ended because of the coup.
But how did the failure to deliver justice and accountability contribute to renewed violence?
Of course, just I want to give you a very sad example for that. In 2003, a genocide happened in Darfur. More than 300,000 people that has been massacred in this region. And at that time, the main responsibility over this is on the government of that time, the Islamists, and SAF. Because in 2003, at that time, there is no RSF. It has not been created till that time. It is the government of Bashir and SAF. And now, a day, the RSF came and committed massacres against people on the IDP camps, for example, around Al-Fashir, like Zamzam and other camps. But what was really astonishing, that the SAF officers and the Islamists are speaking about these crimes in the IDP camps around Al-Fashir. No one asked them, no one asked Al-Burhan, why these people are in camps since 2003, why they are in IDP camp. Because the same Al-Burhan burned their village in 2003. He ended the prospect for them to go back to their homes again, because their village has been burned during the time of al-Bashir. So the criminals of that time, because they has not been accountable for their crimes, they are not only repeating the crimes now, they are being rewarded for that. And because of that, the culture of impunity should end in Sudan. We call for investigation all over Sudan for all the crime that has been committed in this war and in the previous wars. We are calling to extend the mandate of ICC to cover all over Sudan. Now the ICC is covering only Darfur, but the crimes have been committed all over the country, and the ICC should cover all the crimes that happen all around Sudan. We admit that the state in Sudan now is collapsed. The legal system now is compromised because it is under the control of the same military authorities. You cannot expect free and fair trial inside Sudan. And because of that, the international system invented institutions like the ICC. And because of that, the ICC should be one of the mechanisms of the accountability on the crimes that has been committed in the country.
Thank you. And one last question regarding the same theme that we are talking now. And before I give the mic back to Eman, are there any current efforts by the Sumut Alliance or other civilian actors to revive the ICC accountability file?
Yeah, of course it is a very important. It's part of our advocacy and our discourse. We keep calling for the extension of the mandate of the ICC to cover all over Sudan. We keep calling for that amid the Sudanese people and to the internationals, and we are engaging with different actors on this.
Thank you, Mohammed and Khalid, for covering the first theme and the second theme. I will just summarize what has been said, and then there will be like 2 to 3 questions regarding these two themes. Reminder for the theme 1, it's from revolution to war. And Mr. Khalid, when he's been asked about the achievement and failure for the transitional period, if it has been assessed, he mentioned like the silence gun, the peace agreement that Hamad was heading, and then the freedom of expression, and the economy of Sudan at that time. And I want to add that we have been deleted from the terrorist country, and there was a new reform at that time. Failure, I can only conclude in that there was the system itself after the Bashir regime fall was very fragile. So it was very heavy for such transitional period to take all that in one table, in one agenda. And for the second theme, justice, accountability, and impunity, and when he asked about the ICC and the transition justice, he also mentioned that there is an effort from Sumud and other areas to cover that part, and we wish, I think all of us as a Sudanese, for everybody was the reason for this war and for the suffering for any woman raped or a child has been not eating or having education or anything. We need them, all of them held account. So now the floor is open for questions regarding these two things. I see Azza, and I get back to you, and then Amina. So this is the first three for these themes. Okay. Yeah, I think so.
I can sit here. Okay, so first, thanks Mr. Khalid for being here and welcome to Oslo. And also, we really appreciate your efforts to stop this war and to end the suffering of Sudanese people. So I agree with you that the Islamic regime was behind this war, and I also consider this war just like a counter-revolution. But my question was the transitional government, and you were part of this government, was, let's put it so soft, I don't want to use weak, but so soft in dismantling the Islamic regime. And another follow-up question, it's regarding the assessment and evaluation of the transitional period. And I never read this 60 pages, but I listened to some of your episodes talking about the mistakes and the challenges as well. But if I ask about one thing that had been done differently, we will not end on this crisis we have now. Thank you.
I think it is exactly what you said. During the transition, the transitional authorities tried to have a very peaceful transition to democracy, and that's why exactly what you said. The approach toward the Islamists was very soft, really. But unfortunately, there are many who are keeping silent. You were too harsh to them. Yeah. I think if there is one mistake that it should not be repeated, any upcoming transition should be harsher to the Islamists. I think this is the biggest mistake during the transition.
Yeah, also because during the same dialogue, we had Dr. Hassan here, and he had another opinion on that, he feel like the exclusion of the Islamists also led to this crisis, or maybe we have to think about another way, to include the good people in this regime. And we will
look, this is the pretext of the Islamist, the Muslim Brotherhood all over the world. They keep saying that we use violence because we are excluded. But especially in Sudan, the Muslim Brotherhood, they can't say that they were excluded, because it is unlike any place in the region. They were not the victim of authoritarian regimes in Sudan. In Sudan, the Muslim Brotherhood, they were part of the the Legislative Council since the 60s. They were the third party, and they were part of the government during 1985 after the revolution. They were part of the authoritarian regime of Nimeri since 1977 till its fall in 1985. So, and they ruled Sudan from 1989 till now. The Sudanese are the victims of the exclusion of the Islamists, not the opposite. And they are punishing the people in Sudan, and they are killing the people of Sudan, not because they are excluded, no, because they are killers. They don't, the Islamists, they don't believe in coexistence between the different thoughts and groups. This is written, just read what Hassan al-Banna wrote and what Sayyid Qutb wrote, what is their thinker wrote. They don't believe in coexistence. They don't believe in democracy. They said democracy is, is an act against the religion. They only believe in violence, and they believe in exclusion. So, especially in Sudan, they are the main source of exclusion. They are not being excluded. And after the transition, during just 2 years of transition, you can just imagine, okay, a regime like al-Bashir regime, when they came in 1989, they took the opponents, the opposition, to what they called at that time the ghost houses. They killed them, they killed the opposition by torture. They killed a very famous Dr. Ali Fadl by putting a nail in his head. It was years of terror for the Sudanese people. They killed 2 million Sudanese in South Sudan. They killed thousands of people in Nuba Mountain. They killed 300,000 people in Darfur. And in return, is there, during the 2 years of transition, any retaliation against them? No. Did you hear of any Islamist that has been killed by the peaceful protesters? No. Is any one of them has been executed? No. They has been took to court. They have all the rights. They brought their lawyers, and a due process is going. And they have been treated very respectfully, very respectfully. What did they do to the Sudanese people? The coup in 2021, the war now in 2023. They are slaughtering the people now in this war. So they are not the victim of exclusion. They are the source of exclusion in Sudan.
Okay. We have you, the one with the hat. Can you come closer, please?
There was no hat.
Okay. Plus. Yeah.
Thank you, Khalid, for coming. And it's very cold, even for me. I've been here for a while. So I just wanted to ask that nowadays we can hear the voice on the whole world talking about power rather than talking about real humanized stuff that's happening. We're hearing that. In this direction, that we can see that even the international communities are facing their own problems, maybe. Do you feel that Sudan will be left alone? Are you feeling that Sudan will be left alone to the regionals without any intervention from the international society? As we can see that nowadays, there's something happening in Europe, and people are more busy with that maybe. And I can see that there are some flow with the war in Sudan, it's getting down a little bit. and there is a lot of supporting areas that support the way as it is, because they don't need more headache from that side of the region, so they're just supporting the stability. How do the civilians, for example, Sumud, thinking about how do they will approach this changing process? Because if we're gonna do the same again, I think the same weapons are not going to work. So what are Sumud thinking about approaching this?
Thank you very much. Actually, as you said, we are living in a very challenging world now. And that's why we keep saying that the main responsibility to end this war is upon the Sudanese themselves. And we should not over-rely on anyone outside Sudan. It should start by the Sudanese themselves. And this is what we are trying to do in Sumud. By promoting for peaceful settlement for the conflicts in Sudan, by engaging in dialogue with different civilians and try to bridge the differences between the different views and try to find a middle ground between all the civilians' vision, we believe that the war is going to end when the civilians shift the balance of power vis-a-vis the fighting parties. When we come together, delegitimizing the fighting parties, delegitimizing the war itself, not giving any excuses for any one of them or speaking on behalf of them. And the unity of cause of the civilians is really matter. We keep saying that our voices matter, and that's why we should continue advocating for peace. We should not be intimidated by the fighting parties. You know, you can imagine. You know now the fighting parties now, especially those who are capturing the state now, they are using the state to go after the civilians' voices. You can imagine in Port Sudan 2 days back they started a trial against people like me and Dr. Abdullah Hamdok, and the charge that genocide. This is one of the charge, and I've never carried a gun in my life, so and I don't know how to use it. So and those who are accusing the pro-peace civilians, they are the perpetrators of the genocide in Sudan. The same people, the killers of the Sudanese people. But this not this only. Now, as I said to you, an organization like the UN, look, in 2021, when the coup happened, the African Union suspended the membership of Sudan. Now there is a summit next month in Addis Ababa for the African Union. For Sudan or Burhan, he can't go to Addis Ababa and claim the representation of Sudan because he's suspended. But while the continent closed this door for the coup leaders, the UN opened the doors for them. So we are in this fighting, not only facing the fighting parties and the Islamists, unfortunately. Some internationals actually are making our life more difficult by legitimizing the fighting parties who are killing the Sudanese people and weakening the civilian. But, you know, anyone who lived through the time of Bashir and saw what happened in 2019, you know, I was in one of the Western capitals 2 months before the fall of Bashir. And there are many diplomats at that time arguing that, no, you can't. You can't topple Bashir. You have to deal with him. Deal with him means that you have to accept him for life. And we said, no, we are not going to deal with him. We want our freedom. We want to be ordinary people. We want to be like you. Have election and have human rights and this thing. We are not different. We are the same human being. So why do you want us to live under tyranny for our lives? And in 2019, the Sudanese people took the world by surprise. They went and they toppled one of the most brutal dictatorships in the continent. And because of that, I believe in the strength of the Sudanese people. I believe they are going to repeat it again. They are going to stop the war again. But I believe as well, there are true friends for Sudan abroad. And this country used to be a very close friend to Sudan during very difficult times. Look for every peace initiative in the history of Sudan, you will find a role for Norway on that. The peace agreement, the CPA in 2005, without Norway, it was not being possible. And I can count many initiatives. So we are here because we want more active role from Norway to support the Sudanese into this very difficult time. There is an initiative now, which is the Quad initiative. It put on the table a proposal for humanitarian truce. We want Norway to join and to work, to mobilize the world, to put pressures on the two fighting sides to accept unconditional truce and to commit for the implementation of this truce. We want Norway to provide the space and the support for the civilian voices to be amplified and to be able to shape the future of Sudan and to delegitimize the authoritarian rule of Sudan and the military leaders. They should not be the rulers of Sudan. Fate should be decided by the Sudanese people, not by the men with guns. And we want Norway to mobilize the international community to provide the necessary aid for the Sudanese people at this very difficult time and not to accept any conditions by any of the fighting parties. The delivery of the assistance is an obligation. It is not a choice for any one of them. This is part of the international law and it should not be broken in Sudan. And because, as I said, we trust that there are strong friends and loyal friends for Sudan here in this country. We are here to speak to them. We are here to work together with them to achieve peace in Sudan as soon as possible.
Okay. Thank you. Amina and then the break. Then I will come to Akram. Dina, you will be the first on the second theme, if you allow me. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening to everybody and good evening to you, Mr. Khalid, and welcome again. Actually, it's not question because I have a lot of questions. And a lot of things that you say, I absolutely don't agree with you. But we have the war since I born. I'm sure that you are younger than me, and you talk only maybe about this war, but we have war more than 70 years. Since I born, we have war. And every time we think it's going to be end, and it's going to be better, and we're going to have better life. I do agree with you when you say that the Islamic brothers, they are the worst disease it's been in Sudan. The thing is, when you and Hamidok government, they came after the regime are collapsed. We support Hamidok and we support you and we support this government. I am one of these people, they are really, really disappointed after what happened. And that make me, I personally talk about myself, I don't trust our political. The problem is, you talk about we are Sudanese, we always like to be different and UN or what we call it, we are not accept with each other. You are as a political. When you have, for example, the government, what we call it, قحط or قوة الحرية والتغيير, when they quarreling, every one of these, he make his own group, or he make his party, and he give it a name. Now we have Sumud, we have Ta'sis, we have Murtazaga, Mustanfirin, Mutaraddia, Natih, all kind of these names. Instead of talking to us as civilian or the people they went or they waiting for the result of ending the war, did you as the political and the other try to talk to each other? I think our problem is our political. That's what I think. If you can, but just tell me, did you try as the political, not talking to you as such, Mr. Khalid, I mean all the political. I think our political, they need to sit with themselves and talking to each other and lose the problem before they think about the war and think about Sudan. Thank you.
I agree with you. The Sudanese need to speak to each other to find a way out from this mess. And this is exactly what we are calling for. We are calling for a peaceful settlement for the conflict in Sudan, and this can only happen through dialogue. This is the only mean to end the conflicts. But you know, I want just here to differentiate between two things, because there are some who keep saying that the civilians should be united. Okay, and for me, this is a bit strange, you know, because the civilians are not united in anywhere on the earth. Yeah, are you united here in Norway? The essence of the civilians is the diversity. They have different thoughts. They have different preferences. Yes, and interest. This is normal, and that's why the humanity created democracy. Is to manage the differences in a very peaceful way. So it is the same case in Sudan. The civilians should never be united in Sudan. They should celebrate actually their diversity. This is part of the beauty of the scene in Sudan. But what is really missing and needed in Sudan is the dialogue between the different Sudanese. And this has been really harmed and affected because of the war. The war polarized the Sudanese society in a way that not had been witnessed before. People stopped speaking to each other, and they replace the arguments and the thoughts with just accusations and all these things. And this is really not helpful. It is not helpful. You should not agree with me. But please listen to what I'm saying and discuss what I said. No, I'm not speaking about you. I'm speaking generally. I'm speaking generally. I'm not about you. I mean, now, one of the problem, no one, and very few people who are dealing with these differences in an objective manner. It's all accusations, as I said to you, and no one wants to listen to the other. So we keep saying that it is very important. Number one, the military should not decide the future of Sudan. The military should do their duty. And the duty of the military is well known in the constitution and in the law. The space of deciding on the future of Sudan should be for the civilians. And I mean by the civilians, I'm not speaking about the political parties. I mean all the civilians, political parties, the civil society, the youth organization, the women organization, all. And what is really needed is to create the space, the healthy space for these different civilians to come and speak to each other, and I'm pretty sure they will be able to come together on common agenda. They are able to identify the area of convergence between them and the areas of differences between them, and they will be able to manage the differences in a civilized way. This is what we are in need for. I hope the Sudanese diaspora here in Norway can be the model for that. Let us have spaces like this, where different views, people can come and speak to each other and try to work together common agenda. And again, I want to repeat the same message. Let us start by 3 words. Stop the war. We can start by this as a starting point, at the middle ground, and then let us take it from here.
Thank you, Khalid, and thank you for the audience. Sorry if we took a lot of time than we planned, but now the time for the break. We are going to take 15. If you want a 20, it's okay. But after that, then we will cover. We are going to make some modification regarding the 3 themes to make them in 2, just to save the time, because Khalid answered so many questions that in different themes that we are planning to do. So now time for the break, and thank you for listening.